Oh.
Got all my Apple stuff out. We're good to go.
All right.
My name is Luke Sanders. I have been a diabetic since I was 8 years old. I'm now 29.
Um, do you remember at all what it was like being diagnosed with diabetes?
Yes, relatively. Being 8 years old, you don't have too much grasp of what it means. At that point in time, all I knew was I was going to get shots all the time, and I hated shots as it stood at that point. So obviously that crushed me. And then as the understanding of dietary restrictions and or just I guess relative life restrictions started setting in, that was kind of as I got into junior high was when I had more understanding of what that truly was. At 8 years old, I had a lot of just drawbacks with comparing myself to other kids, not being able to eat what they ate, all that kind of goofy stuff. But when I got to junior high, I realized kind of really truly the restrictions it was going to put on my life for the long term, both physically and in a lot of ways mentally. Family, I think, was the most affected. Work can be affected depending on how you handle your own diabetes. Diabetes is very much a personal battle, and if you're not willing to fight it, then it can affect everything in a lot of adverse ways. With my work, I worked as an outside salesman for about 4 years, driving over 55,000 miles a year. It affected that heavily because with low blood sugar, it can affect driving drastically. And also, with my case specifically, low blood sugar also led to epileptic seizures on occasion. So that also put a lot of restrictions on my life in the sense that I was suspended from my license a couple of different times just due to medical situations. So that restricted my ability to drive. That restricted my ability to get certain types of jobs that I thought I was able to get. As an example, um, I was in application for LAPD for about 6 months in 2008 after I got out of college. And I passed everything with flying colors all the way up until the medical test, which was right before I would go to academy. And I was turned down based on medical because I was um, unmanageable. So for that reason, yeah, jobs are definitely affected, and I guess life decisions. But family is affected in the same sense that if you're not willing to fight the battle, it's going to fight you, I guess. Especially with family because my wife is required to deal with all the same things that I deal with, whether she wants to or not, because she kind of signed on the dotted line for that, uh, which I definitely love her for all the more. But it's not a battle that I fight alone anymore. It's between my wife and I, and the partnership between us makes the disease all the more manageable.
Like,
Absolutely, yes. My perspective is different from others. Um, I don't know if you can tell from my surroundings, but I work at a church. I've been a Christian for as long as I can remember. In junior high, when I was saying that I really experienced that understanding of of what this disease would do to my life, it was partly due. It was due in part to understanding what Christ had done for my life as well, because Jesus Christ being in my life, my Christianity, my dependence on Christ helped me to realize that although I can't control my life, God is in control of it anyway. And the fact that I had diabetes was a plan from the beginning. As it says in Jeremiah, I knew you in your mother's womb before you were anything. I knew you. I knew what you were going to do, how you were going to be, and he planned it. And that to me was really what set my life in a straight line in a sense, because at that point depression was never an issue. Self-worth was never an issue because I knew that what I had was meant to be. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't because it was my fault. It wasn't something that I could change. It was for my benefit, even though it didn't seem like it. And the funny thing is, after having realized that, I got to about 15 years old, and one of the kids that was in a ministry I was in a part of, in junior high ministry, his name was Brad. he had contracted diabetes, the same type as me, not quite as severe, but he had contracted it at about 12 years old. And I went to visit him in the hospital and just kind of try my best to give him a little bit of hope as far as your life isn't over. It's just going to be different. And now he's a pastor in the ministry that I work for. He's actually my boss. But it's just funny the way that God works things out. And to be completely honest, if I didn't have that perspective at that point in time in my life, I could have gone down a very different pathway. And the whole thing that kind of keeps me, I guess, together through all this is a scripture that I actually tattooed on myself so that I would never forget it, even if I want to. It says, Philippians 1:6 says, "He who has begun a good work within you will be faithful to complete it until the day that Christ returns." Meaning that God started something, it wasn't interrupted by anything, and it was a plan, and it will be complete. It's not like something happened or there was something that he didn't see coming, where I got diabetes and God was like, oh geez. It was planned from the beginning, which gives me rest.